Hey guys, this week we are talking about crap strategies, marker problems, a listener host problem, and so much more. So stick around.
It's a lot of problems.
It is a lot of problems this week. This episode is sponsored by Cove Security. Get started today at crapvegas.com/Cove.
Welcome to the Crap Vegas podcast.
Vegas, here we come.
Vegas!
Here are your hosts, Chris and Josh.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 55 of the Crap Vegas podcast. I am Chris. He is Josh. Josh, what's going on today?
Episode 55. Man.
Yes, it's a very special one. I don't know if you know this, Josh. I got sent a message from somebody to let us know that 55 is an angel number, and it's a positive sign from the universe. It carries a message of change and spiritual growth. When you see 55 often, it means that changes are coming your way and you should welcome them.
Wow.
I mean, I didn't know this episode
I was just
really
going
important,
with the outdated
but it
speed
truly
limit.
is. Yeah.
That's
pretty
cool.
much the same.
So it's
Yeah,
an angel number, huh?
Yeah, I don't know what that means. Can't remember who sent that to me, but thank you for passing that along. We are truly excited to be on episode number 55.
It's very exciting. It's a cool number. It's round. Not really round, but kind of round.
I mean, it either is or it isn't, right? It can't be kind of round. I mean, 61's kind of like 60, and that's a round number, so.
Whatever.
Oh, my.
So, Chris, I did want to ask you, we kind of touched on a little bit in our Patreon episode because the, what was it? The PGA tournament? What was the golf
PGA
tournament?
Championship.
PGA was right down there in Chris's neck of the woods, and it was just happening, just starting, and there was that horrible accident and Scotty Scheffler's arrest and everything that happened, I think the day before we were recording maybe, or on the day we were recording. And so do you have an update?
Yeah, so I think most of the locals thought after that whole situation happened that it would just kind of slowly disappear. You know, the charges would be dismissed a few days later.
Right?
Oh, no, they haven't been dismissed. His arraignment was scheduled for today. He hired a guy named Steve Romines, who's one of the biggest criminal defense attorneys in Louisville. He represents all the major criminals here. So he hired him immediately, which was good for him. He's who I would call if I ever needed somebody.
Right.
Well, arraignment was supposed to be today, and yesterday during motion hour in the court, Romines showed up in the court and asked for a continuance.
Okay.
He asked to push the arraignment back a couple weeks is what he wanted to do. It just, I guess, Scotty wasn't in town. He had gone home back to Texas. He would come back if he needed to, but Romines was trying to get him, some delay on this.
Right.
Well, Josh, the Commonwealth attorney, the actual lead Commonwealth attorney, not one of his dummies and surrogates underneath him, showed up at court that day and argued that it should not be extended. He said that
continued, right?
Yeah, no continuance here. He said that this should be handled today like any other person. And that led into a big argument how half of these things are continued, that nobody can ever make it work on their schedule. They went back and forth. The judge sided with Romines on this for Scheffler and allowed the continuance to happen. But the only thing I took away from that whole exchange was anybody thought that this was just going to disappear. I think they're sorely mistaken.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I mean, I can't imagine he's getting up there arguing that there shouldn't be a continuance if they're going to turn around and drop the case in a week.
I think these are pretty serious charges, right? They're felony.
It was assault 2. So in Kentucky, that's 5 to 10 years. I mean, this is not something that should be taken trivially. It is quite important. I still think that it's a lot of posturing here, and eventually they're going to plead him down to some sort of misdemeanor that's associated with it that won't be as big of a deal. But I don't think they're just going to let him walk away from the situation with a parking ticket.
That's crazy. And just kind of looking at it from very much afar, I had no idea that it was that. When they released him that morning and he went and played golf and shot, I think, a 65 that day. So he went out.
Yeah, he shot very well.
Really well. Yeah.
Yeah.
He didn't have a good Saturday, if I remember. But I thought it was all going to be just kind of dropped and that kind of thing. I had no idea that it was this serious.
I think most people, thought that as well. I can tell you the city of Louisville's just kind of up in arms over this whole situation. Like anything else, half the people think he tried to run over a cop, he should be in jail. The other, this is Scotty Scheffler, the nicest guy ever. So everybody's kind of torn. Unfortunately, it did come out this week that there is no body cam footage.
That's what I saw too, Chris.
And so that led to a lot of arguments over should there have been, should there not have been. I guess City of Louisville police procedure says that if you're just doing a fixed post position like he was investigating the fatality that had occurred earlier in the day. There's no reason to have body cam footage on. You're supposed to turn it on if an incident pops up. But it's like I was talking with people at my office about, it's not like when you're telling somebody to stop and they start to drive, you can be like, please pause. I need to turn on my recording real quick before you run me over. You know, I mean, it's nothing like that. You can't do it. So I kind of get it. But at the same time, if you're a conspiracy theorist, this is feeding right into it.
I don't understand why. I don't know the technical ins and outs of police cameras and all that stuff, but I don't understand why in today's day and age, you wouldn't just have the camera running, period. Even if you're just doing traffic stuff.
I mean, I agree with you. I heard that they said it's mostly a space issue of the amount of stuff that they're recording, but also they said if you record everything, it's so much information, it's almost too much to find what you need sometimes.
Yeah.
Now, I don't buy that because we have time and timestamps, and it shouldn't be that
and
hard.
Space, electronic space shouldn't be that. Yeah. I mean videos a lot.
I don't know how these things work, but I don't understand any reason why they can't just stream it to a cloud as it's recording through a little cell phone chip built into the camera. I mean, it makes sense to me, but, and you know, Josh, it doesn't exist. We're not going to have it this time. They are, if they haven't already at the time that this comes out, they are releasing the video of his actual arrest process. But I think Scotty himself has even said that he was treated with respect. The officers were very nice.
That's what I heard too, right?
They offered him a sandwich and all that stuff. You know, they were trying to be nice. Now, I'm still trying to figure out how somebody could ever be arrested on a felony charge, be put into an orange jumpsuit, mugshotted, and then still have him released on his own recognizance within an hour.
That's kind of why I thought this was all going to blow over, because he was out so fast. Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you this. If this was Chris that had this happen to him, I would not have been out an hour later.
Yeah, I have a feeling that's true. The other thing, Chris, that's kind of somewhat related is I've seen that Valhalla is getting kind of slammed for the golf course itself. Have you seen that?
Yeah, a lot of people are complaining that Valhalla is too easy. And I get it. The course is very long. It does play very long, which for an average golfer makes it extremely difficult. For a pro, it's not a big deal at all. They can still hit the green in 2 on a par 5.
And they had a lot of rain, right? You guys had made the course
slammed.
easier.
I mean, weather-wise was really bad during the week. And yeah, of course, when you get super wet greens, yeah, it's going to make the course a heck of a lot easier. People were complaining because, you know, pros were shooting 20 under for the tournament, which is a lot. But at the same time, I would just argue back to those people, and I'm not a huge golf fan by any means. Valhalla always gives out like really exciting championship days.
Right.
Like it's always close. The cream always rises to the top at the tournaments here. It's never some random guy you've never heard of that wins at Valhalla. It's Tiger Woods. It's Rory, Xander Schauffele. This is what we get. So I feel like it's doing its job, but I understand there are purists that would rather have it go, 2 under to win. But I think it's a heck of a lot more exciting when they're shooting 20 under personally.
Yeah, I like it too. It'd be fun to watch.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I don't know, after this whole mess with Rory, the pedestrian, the course being so easy, I don't know if PGA will make it back here or not. It's not eligible really for anything until like 34. I think 2034 is the next year they could be assigned. Maybe they'll get it. I mean, we've had a Ryder Cup. We've had a PGA Championship. We've had a lot. I hope they come back. I think that other than that Friday morning, that was a mess. It went really well. It really did, other than me having to live near it and deal with the parking issues. But other than that, I think it did go off without a hitch. People seem very happy to be there. The crowds were really good. So hopefully it makes its way back sometime.
Well, we in our neck of the woods had a few years ago, it's probably been 5 or 6 years now, that we had the U.S. Open at Chambers Bay, which is a beautiful links course on the water between kind of Seattle and Tacoma. Mm-hmm. And it got panned. Like the players were complaining about it and hated it. And so we're unlikely to get another U.S. Open for a while.
Yeah, I mean, we have some smaller events that take place in Kentucky. The Barbasol Championship takes place here. That's usually in Lexington. And we've had some other smaller ones in Louisville. But yeah, getting the PGA back would be great. But I guess we'll have to see how it all shakes out and if Scheffler ends up in jail in a few months,
For sure.
Okay, with all that being said, and obviously that has a lot to do with what we normally talk about, let's tell people how to get a hold of us so they can complain about our 20 minutes of golf talk. If you'd like to reach us via email, that's podcast@crapvegas.com. You can reach us on Facebook. That's crapvegas.com/Facebook. And I apologize to all those people. I have not been on there in a while.
I'm on there at least.
Josh is almost every day.
I try, right.
Sometimes I forget about it. I need to get back over there. You got to poke me sometimes. You can leave us a voicemail. That's crapvegas.com/voicemail. And Josh, I actually did take the time.
Don't say it.
Never mind. Or you can reach us on Twitter.
X.
He's at Vegas Duffy. I'm at Small Whale 13, or the show page is at Crap Vegas. Okay, previous episode feedback. We got an email from Jessica. Jessica said, Chris and Josh, loved hearing about your recent trip to Vegas, but sorry to hear it went so poorly, for Chris at least. Seems like my recent trips have been very poor too. Have you ever considered playing a different strategy when it's going poorly, or do you typically play the same way no matter what? Best of luck on your next trip, and hope to see you all in Vegas in June, Jessica.
Well, thanks, Jessica. And the shorter answer is yes. Chris and I talk quite often, both on the show and off air, about different ideas we have when things are going bad, whether it's different strategies or different ways to maybe gamble a little less or play different games, but for sure.
And how many times have we done that in reality?
Well, we're not great at it, but we have high expectations.
Yes, I was going to say, because I can't think of a single time we did change. But that's a great question, Jessica, and we're actually going to talk a little bit more about strategies in a minute, so I think that's going to come back up. We received an email from Amber. Amber said, guys, your recent episode made me think about theming in Vegas and what I would want to see. Although I agree something like a London or space theme property would be fun, personally, I like the idea of the 40s, 50s casino with amazing rules the most. I love looking back at the photos of that time. It's really iconic. Although I love the property itself, I mostly go for the gambling. So getting back to the best rules with the highest odds is much more important and exciting to me than the property itself.
I understand. I like this London space, but I get the Chris's idea and your idea of the 40s, 50s, 60s and better rules. I like that too.
I mean, I'm just thinking, Josh, if they changed it so that the payouts were better on a craps table somehow, and I'm not just talking like a field bet.
Right.
You know, if all of a sudden, I don't know, like placing the 6 and 8, instead of paying 7 to 6, paid 6 to 5.
Right.
You know, like if it did that all of a sudden, I'd go to that property every time. I don't care what it looks like.
Or Amber, I mean, to your point, if we could just have buy bets on the 5 and 9, paying the vig on wins only, like they do in Biloxi, as I have learned to say it over the years.
You always struggle with that one, huh?
A little bit, yeah. But I mean, that would be great.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that in Atlantic City some places. You can do it in Biloxi. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely seek out a property that gave me that option. It's not a huge change. I mean, it's not massive game-breaking change.
Right.
But it is knocking a couple percentage points off the house edge there.
For sure. So thanks for the comment, Amber. I appreciate that. And you're probably right. I mean, that would be a good way to go.
Final listener feedback this week. We got a message on Patreon from Dice God. He said, this question is for Josh, mostly. Josh, now that you have gone back to Venetian and liked it, and also have Wynn, Aria, and Fountain Blue out there, what is your plan for the rest of the year? I've heard you say that you may stay away from Wynn. Do you value free play the most out of everything they offer? To me, it would seem that Wynn is a far nicer property than all the others, but I understand if they aren't giving you the most, you may stay away. Just trying to understand your thought process. Thanks, Dice God.
Dice God, great question, and something I struggle with. I think Chris does too. Our plan, as we'll talk about for our June trip, does not involve staying at Wynn, and I wouldn't be surprised if I don't stay at Wynn the rest of the year, although I might sneak down for a night or two, but I'm definitely not going to try and get black status again. The reasons are complicated, and I don't even know if I exactly understand it myself. Part of it is I definitely like what I'm getting from other properties more than I'm getting from Wynn. And it's enough that it offsets the other benefits that Wynn has. So if I'm getting 2 times the amount of free play at an MGM property or 2 times the amount of free play at Venetian or something like that, that probably is enough to sway me away from Wynn. Also, there's a lot of pressure at Wynn for me to kind of maintain a certain level of play. We have a host that I think has grown to expect a certain level of play, and I don't feel that same pressure at Venetian or at MGM. I don't know why. Like I feel that if my play slips on a trip, it's not going to hurt me that much. And I won't, there's just something about Wynn that I feel like I have to play at a certain level and sustain that. That kind of makes me feel that way. And then with Sabrina being gone from the Tower Suites bar,
that's it.
I don't have the same pull in the morning. Yeah.
You know, it's so funny you say that, Josh, because we've talked about this on the show before, where Wynn, the offers really don't change.
No.
They're always the same.
Yeah.
Whether you low play them, high play them, somewhere in the middle. So out of all the properties we go to, I would say Wynn is the one I'm worried about least when it comes to the amount of play that I give them.
Yeah.
Because it really doesn't matter. I'm going to get the exact same thing no matter what I do. But if we're talking like MGM or Venetian or something like that.
That does vary.
It changes every month significantly based off the amount of play. If we play heavy there, our offer goes way up.
That's
and
true.
If we don't play very often, that offer tanks. So, I mean, I'm more concerned with how I play at other properties than I am at Wynn.
That's funny.
But that being said, I guess I don't care about the free play as much as you probably do, because I think of it from the perspective that the amount of free play that they give us, it's literally like one roll on a craps table.
That's true.
So what difference does it make at the end of the day? It's almost meaningless to me. So I just consider, okay, the hotel, the food, the events, things going on, the environment, the atmosphere. How do I balance those things out? And that's why even if I can't hit black this year, because we've just gone so many other places, I still am going to go back to Wynn. I guarantee I'll be there before the end of the year.
Right.
And I would go as far as to say, I bet you on my birthday trip, I'll definitely be there.
Well, and that'll mean I'll be there too.
So I'm going to force you into it.
I'll be forced to it. Kicking and screaming back to Wynn.
No, I think the other thing, terrible there. Terrible dealers, Rick and all those guys, just horrible. Yeah.
I'll have to cut this part out so Rick doesn't hear me say anything bad about Wynn. But seriously, I mean, I think as you're saying that, Chris, I mean, you're right. It's not, I don't know if it's the free play that's driving me. I don't know what it is exactly.
I think I do. If it makes you feel better.
What do you think it is?
I think that when we go to properties outside of Wynn, the people that we interact there with, host-wise, make us feel so much more welcome and valued that we have a tendency to flock to those properties where we feel welcomed and valued. And when we go to Wynn, you don't get any sort of touchy-feely warm hug when you go there.
Maybe that's it.
And I think that you would rather have that warm feeling and be highly welcomed at a property than one that just kind of tolerates you being there.
That's true. I like the idea of knowing that we can contact our host, whether it's at an MGM property or at Venetian, and say, can you get us tickets to this show? And it happens. And that we don't get that at Wynn, except Awakening, which anybody can get tickets to.
That does not count.
The other thing, I'm not Wynn's version of when you look at Wynn's Instagram page, I'm not anywhere close to being on Wynn's Instagram page.
No, and I am not either. So I'm right there with you.
I didn't want to throw you in there, but I think some of that comes into it too. You know, at night, the clientele at Wynn, and more power to you if it's you, is not me. You know, I don't really fit into that mold. The dining choices at Wynn are not, while I love them and they're fantastic. I mean, I think Charlie's is my go-to spot for casual dining at Wynn. And you guys know we rave about the Wynn room service, but the other restaurants at Wynn are usually more than I want. And, you know, there's not a lot of casual dining options. So it's just those kind of things. And maybe it is, Chris, the touchy-feely part. I can get touchy-feely and I can get a sky suited Aria and a whole bunch of free play and a massage comped. I mean, that's enough to kind of push me over.
Yeah, no, I get it. I think that's what it probably is at the end of the day. And this is probably more than you wanted, Dice Guide, but there's an explanation of what Josh is planning for the rest of the year and at least our thought process behind it. Okay, main topic this week, Josh. We received a question from a newer listener recently who was interested in craps strategies. It's been a while since we dove deeper into some of that stuff, so I thought it'd be fun to discuss.
Absolutely. Chris and I talk about this stuff all the time. We talk about parts of it on the show, but I think if you're a gambler, particularly if you're a craps player, but maybe it applies to slots and blackjack and everything, we're always tinkering with the way we play or fantasizing about ways that we could play, quote unquote, better or change strategies to have us bankroll last longer, or maybe a potential of winning more or cut down variance or all that kind of stuff.
So here's what we got. We got an email from Jonathan B. I'll just read his message, Josh, because it will feed well into what we want to talk about. Jonathan said, "Dear Chris and Josh, I'm a longtime gambler, first-time craps player. I've listened to your shows and heard many different strategies discussed, but I'm curious if you would be willing to dive deeper into the pros and cons of the ones that you all seen played the most. I appreciate your help in advance and will be signing up for Patreon today in case you cover it over there. Thanks for everything, John. Well, John, you could have saved a couple bucks, although I do appreciate it because we're talking about it on the main show.
Did he sign up?
I think so.
Is he one of our new patrons?
Yeah. We'll find out.
Because if he's not, we're not answering your question, John.
I'm not good at putting 2 and 2 together, but I guess we'll find out later. Remind me. Okay, so Josh, I went and put down 4 or 5 of the most common things that I see people play. And if you have one, we can add one. But let's run through some of these things and talk about what's really good in our eyes and what's maybe not so good. The first one is the 3-point Molly system. And for those that don't play it too terribly often, that's having a pass line and 2 come bets. That's all it is. You can add odds behind them, no odds. You can do whatever you want, but it's a pass line and 2 come bets called a 3-point Molly. Pros of this, Josh, in my opinion, you get the lowest exposure to an immediate 7, which is something that just beats the crap out of us the way that we play. If you go 0.7 on a 3-point Molly system, you're effectively going to push other than odds you put behind your pass line.
Right.
Your first 2 bets are a push because you win one, you lose one. Best mathematical way to play based on house edge, pass line with odds, come bets with odds. They're the best things that you can do at a table. So if you're looking to keep house edge as low as you can, it's an amazing way to play. And third, if it is going well and those numbers that you're up on, those 3 numbers you have are hitting, you can make some good money that way. You're getting paid true odds on the odds. I mean, it's not a bad way to play by any means.
It is good. And Chris, you didn't mention this is the way Boring Jack plays usually.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So we have to give Jack credit.
Isn't that a con?
I was wondering which category would fit into, but
the cons that I put down, and Josh, if you have other ones, you feel free to chime in.
No, you're in good shape so far.
I said the cons, there's less numbers that will make you money on a roll. Because if you're playing a 3-point Molly at the beginning, you have 1 number that will pay you, then 2, then 3. But there are clearly a lot more numbers than that can roll. So you're not getting them all by any means. Your rating will be significantly lower. I think this is a huge con of the 3-point Molly. The way that casinos work, they typically don't give you any credit for the odds that you are putting behind pass line and come bets. So you're going to get credit for that base bet on the pass line and the base bet on the come bet. You may be playing $500 in play and get credit for $75.
That's exactly right.
And that is a pretty big deal if that's important to you. And the third thing I said, Josh, it can be harder to capture a really good roll. If things are really going well, numbers are hitting left and right, it's a little harder to press that way because you'd have to increase your base come bet and then increase the odds you're putting behind it. And so timing comes into play. What about if you get a 7 on a come out roll and it wipes those numbers down, you get your odds back? I mean, there's a lot of things that play into a 3-point Molly, but overall, I think it can be a great way to play, especially if you're new to it.
I think so too. And Chris, I think you captured the pros and cons pretty well. I don't have anything specific as far as pros and cons to add, but I think that rating is key. I think that if you're concerned about your rating at a craps table, 3-point Molly is not the way to go. I loved it when I used to play a 3-point Molly because, as you said, you can play a lot longer. You have lower exposure. My whole motto was, if you can't be good, be quick, which applies to 3-point Molly and relationships.
Yes.
But no,
and I didn't do either. So bad for me.
If you want to last for a long time at craps, hopefully, a 3-point Molly is a great way to go. It is the best way for beginners to play craps, I think. If I'm ever teaching anybody craps, it's so simple to learn. You don't have to do odds if you don't want to. That doesn't change the game a whole lot. It's a fun way to play. It's relatively safe as far as those things go. But yeah, it's not good for rating. And I think Chris's the main point, we don't like it as much aside from the rating, is it's really hard to kind of catch fire.
It can be. And I don't like, Josh, personally. I know a lot of people say on come bets, the number has to roll twice.
I was going to say that as a con,
even
jokingly,
that it's not true because the first roll 7 or 11 wins for you, 2, 3, 12 lose. But that being said, the one thing I don't like about it, Josh, is you could get a significant amount of money in play by having a roll that goes, let's say 8 is the come out roll, then it goes 9, 10, then out.
Right.
And in those situations, you now have all your bets up. You probably got some odds up there, and you didn't win a penny on the roll, where if you're one of the different types of players, you at least recovered some of it.
Right.
Like we said, all these strategies and systems, none of them will make you a winner. None of them. It's just different ways to manage your money and different things that might be important to you. So for me, Josh, moving on to the second system that I think I see people play the most commonly, I would say when they go inside only.
Yep.
I think that's probably the next most common thing that you see. And what that means is you're playing the box numbers that are on the inside of the table, which is the 5, 6, 8, and 9. You're not taking a 4, 10 on the box numbers. Inside only is extremely common. I think the pros, at least in my eyes, they're the most common numbers to hit other than 7. So you're going to get more hits on those numbers you're betting on. And I think they're the best numbers for overall bankroll management because they do come pretty frequently. For cons, though, Josh, I said the 5 and 9 do have the highest house edge of any box numbers, which is, I believe, 4%, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, a little over, I think.
And, of course, if you're playing 4 place bets, you have a higher exposure to an immediate 7 after the come out roll, really hitting you pretty hard.
Yep, I think that's exactly right. I don't like it particularly. I don't recommend it to people, even though, yes, that's best for bankroll management as far as placing numbers because the 5, 6, 8, 9 hit more often. You are suffering that high house edge on essentially half of the numbers you're placing, right? So to me, if I had a choice between placing the inside numbers and doing a 3-point molly, except for the rating part, which I have a little bit of a struggle trying to overcome in my head, but you should play the 3, and I'm saying you should play the 3-point molly instead of playing inside, in my opinion.
I tend to agree with you. Okay, Josh, the next way though, the outside only. The inside numbers were 5, 6, 8, 9. If you're playing the outside only,
now
a lot of people play that way. That would be the 4, 5, 9, 10. I think the pros, the 4 and 10 on buy bets, as long as you're paying the Vig on Wynn only,
right? That's
a 1.67% house edge bet. They're great bets to make on a craps table. And another pro, Josh, is I think you can make money really quickly when those outside numbers are rolling, just because of the way that they pay. I mean, when you're getting 2-1 on those outside numbers hitting, on the 4, 10, and you're getting, 1.4 to 1 effectively on the 5 and 9 hitting, you can make money pretty darn quickly on a good roll.
And it kind of corresponds to what I think we touched on last episode on the crapless table at the Venetian High Limit Room or Palazzo High Limit Room, which is just what I'm talking about is the fact that the only craps table in the High Limit Room is crapless. And the reason for that is players are playing the outside. Now, we're talking about regular crapless here, but what I'm talking about is the same principle that players are seeing that value or that ability to make good money and low house edge on those outside numbers. So here playing the 4 and 10, buying the 4 and 10, and in crapless buying the 2, 3, 11, 12, and the 4 and 10, all are very low house edge bets and will pay very nicely. Now, you have huge variance.
That was my first con on the list is huge variance. But Josh, I think the reason, going back to your original comment, I think the reason you see crapless and high limit pits so much is variance kills low-level gamblers. It's what does them in every time. They don't have a bankroll to overcome the variance that exists. High-limit players typically do have the bankroll to overcome it.
Yep.
So they would rather have higher variance bets that are better house edge and long-term may do better for them. So I think that's why you see it in high limit versus out on the main floor as much, because those people can overcome the issues.
Right. But it's the same principles here. And the con is that you may, as you said, need a bigger bankroll for sure.
Yeah. And then, of course, the outside does include the 5-9, which we just talked about, aren't the best bets that you can make house edge wise. So that is included in those. Now, the next one, though, Josh, on my list is the one that we do consistently, and that's betting across. If you were asking me which one I see the most at tables, I think 3-point molly's most common, followed by inside. I bet you actually see betting across more than outside only.
I do too. I think so.
I think. Yeah. I don't keep track. So betting across just means you're taking all the box numbers. So there are boxes for 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. You're taking all of them. Whatever the point is, you got that on the line. And the other 5 boxes, you're taking a place and a buy bet on those things. Pros of it, on a really good roll, you're going to kill it. You're going to do far better than most other people at the table in those situations. There are more numbers to provide return on each roll. So you don't have to just hit the 6-8, that's on the inside to get your money back. You got plenty of opportunities when you're betting across to make your money back during the roll. And like we said earlier, the 4, 6, 8, and 10, all those even numbers, they're good bets. They have good house edges on them. They're good numbers to take. And Josh, my favorite is always there's more numbers, so there's more ways to win.
Absolutely. Just like 000 roulette, right, Chris?
Yeah, just another opportunity. Yeah, that's what it is. Cons, I don't think there's a way you could play that has more variance than this. When you're taking every box number, you are going to have massive swings. And when a 7 comes after you have established a point, it makes you want to cry because you have a lot of money on the table and you had no chance to get any of it back. Whereas if you were a 3-point Molly player and that happens, you're effectively even.
Right.
Yeah. So that kind of hurts. It does require a much larger bankroll. I can't imagine you trying to play across with a limited bankroll. That would be disastrous. You could only last a couple rolls potentially and be out before you even had a chance to do anything. And I do think when you're playing across, a longer roll is required just to get to like base breaking even, Josh.
Yeah.
Because when you're making 5 place bets and buy bets, you got to have a couple hits just to get back to where you started. Now, then from that point forward, you could absolutely kill it. But a roll of 3-4 numbers, you may not even break even on that roll.
Right.
And different strategies, you may have done perfectly fine. So it's just, that's the way it is. There's benefits and there's negatives.
And just to kind of give people an idea so we don't get too lost in the weeds, if we're playing $135 across, that means $25 on all the numbers with 30 on the 6 and 8, less the point. So it's usually 130 or 135 across. So, and to use Chris's example, if you hit, what's a $30 6 pay? Chris, you would know this.
35.
Okay, so you get $35 on 1 6. Let's say an 8 comes next, another $35. You're still not even close to paying for your 135. That's not even counting your point and your odds and so on. So yeah, when you're playing across, that's the danger, is it just takes a while to make that money back. I mean, that's one of the dangers Chris outlined. There are a lot of cons. It's a fun way to play. It is, in my opinion, the most fun way to play because you get paid on every number. What could go wrong, as I say at the table?
I mean, and to be fair, if this was a crapless table, when we say we play across, we play across. We take
play all
every
the way,
box
right.
number, 2 through 6, 8 through 12. We're going to take every bet you can possibly give us. Is it the best way to play? From a mathematical standpoint, absolutely not. From a fun perspective, I think it's amazing. Okay, Josh, so I had to throw one more in there just for us to mention real quick.
Old Iron Cross.
It's the old Iron Cross that people mention all the time. It's a way I've played maybe once in my life because I despise it. But for those that aren't familiar with what an Iron Cross bet strategy is, that means that you're placing the 5, 6, and 8, and you're taking a field bet on every roll with it. Why a field bet? Because the field bet pays on 2, 3, 4, 9, 10, 11, 12. And you're placing the other numbers that you don't get on the field bet. So effectively, if anything other than 7 rolls, you're a winner. And that is a pretty big pro. And that also means just mathematically, 30 out of 36 roll combinations, you're going to be a winner on. That's about it for what I have for pros, Josh. We'll get to the negatives. Cons. You're using a field bet as kind of your main bet that you're making. And a field bet is a single roll bet. Even if it pays triple on the 12, it's still a 2.78% house edge on that bet. It's quite large compared to some of the other bets that are available on the table. If it pays double on the 2 and 12, it's over a 5.5% house edge. I would yell at you to stay away at that point just for your own sanity. But what I hate the most about it, Josh, is A, you're almost playing against yourself when rolls come.
Mm-hmm.
And B, when you do win, you don't win much. So just for example's sake, I said, let's say we're playing at a $15 table. To make this bet, you would have a $66 bet. You would have 15 on the 5 and $18 on the 6 and 8. And then you would have a field bet for $15. So that comes out to be $66 that you're betting.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say what happens if you do win. If a 2 rolls, you win $30. You win double your field bet and your other bets just stay out there. That's great. If a 3, 4, 9, 10, 11, any of those field numbers roll, you win $15, the amount of your field bet. If a 5, 6, or 8 roll, those ones that you placed, you're only going to win $6.
Because you're losing your field bet.
Because those place bets are going to pay $21 and you lost 15 on the field bet. So you win $6 on 3 of the most common numbers that can roll at a table. And then if a 12 rolls, you win $45. 1 out of 36 times you'll win that. So in my eyes, Josh, on most rolls that are winners, you're either going to win $15 or on the most common numbers, you're going to win $6. And to do that, you have to bet $66 to make it happen. That doesn't feel like a good trade-off for me.
No, I agree. I feel the same way. I think it's just, I mean, it's Not a bad way to play if you just want to grind out time at the craps table. But along that same line, it's difficult, in my experience, to get rated properly in an iron cross strategy because oftentimes your field bets aren't being rated. Not to say they shouldn't be, but oftentimes the box is going to miss those. They're just looking at numbers. They're not realizing you're doing it every single roll. It would be very possible to not get rated.
And I mean, I'll say from this perspective, Josh, you could have a roll that was 10 rolls long after a point was established and lose money.
Right.
Because it could literally come, if it's 5, 6, 8, 6, 8, 6, 8, it just keeps going like that. 10 rolls later, you will still have lost $6 on your bets out there. And that is not ideal in any way, shape, or form. I think of the Iron Cross as a way, if you know you're going to lose money and your sole goal is just to stay at the table as long as you possibly can, then the Iron Cross isn't the worst strategy to take.
Agreed.
Because, I mean, you're not going to make anything on a good roll, and you're not going to lose as much on a bad roll. It will keep you around for a while. But I feel like if you're playing Iron Cross, you have zero chance of ever having a big win.
Yeah, I feel that way too.
So at least in my eyes, it's a non-starter. It's a way I will not play. I understand why some people want to play it. And I'm sure there are listeners out there that would say, oh, if you play that way, you need to do this pressing strategy with it. And you take this hit and you move it to this. And then you start buying and play. Yes, everybody has their own way to play. But the base Iron Cross strategy, it's just a loser in my eyes. It's just not a way to play.
Now, the last strategy, Chris, that we didn't really talk about other than kind of touching on it, that I think is not a bad way to go, is playing the even numbers. And I think that I won't go too in depth on it, but again, that means playing the 4, 10, 6, and 8. So you're not placing, when I say playing, I mean buying or placing. You're not placing the 5 and 9. So you're taking out those numbers with the higher house edges. Chris and I have tried that. Sometimes I still like to try that, but then I miss having all the numbers.
I do too. If you're talking mathematically, I think it is a good way to play. You don't see it that often, Josh.
You don't. Yeah.
It's rare that you see people that don't take the 5 and 9 and take the evens. We do it occasionally. And of course, it doesn't matter long term, but of course what happens is the moment you do that, the roll goes 5, 9, 9, 5 out.
And then you give up.
And you're like, God, I'm done. And then you actually place the 5 and 9 and it never comes up again. And that's how all strategies are for the most part. But yeah, it isn't a bad way to play if you're looking to keep the house edge down, get yourself some common hits with the 6, 8 coming, 4 and 10 pay pretty well, although the variance increases there.
Right.
Great way to play.
So thanks, John. That was a great question. And thanks for signing up on Patreon.
Yeah, we appreciate it if you did, which we'll find out later.
Right.
After the break, we will answer some listener questions and maybe the CV Big Wheel will make a return. I'm not sure. So stick around and let's find out. Josh, something a lot of people overlook is home security. They think it's too expensive, they hate the contracts, and they just don't want to deal with the hassle.
You're absolutely right. I know in my house, my wife is one of those people particularly that doesn't like recurring payments and contracts, as you said.
Yeah.
But when it comes to home security, sometimes that has to take a backseat.
I agree 100%. And I have a solution for those people that don't want to deal with all that stuff. It makes it much simpler. It's Cove Security, Josh. Cove is an industry leader in home security systems without any of the hassles that people are used to. You can self-install the system, there are no contracts, 24/7 support, and most importantly, it's cheap. With monitored plans starting at only 60 cents a day, how could you pass it up? The best part is if you act now, you'll save up to 70% on all your equipment. You'll get a free HD camera, free setup, and so much more. There is no better time to switch. Cove was also named Best Home Security System 2023 by the U.S. News and World Report. So get signed up today by visiting crapvegas.com/Cove.
That's crapvegas.com/Cove.
Josh, tell me how excited you are about Zorkfest 2024.
I am beyond excited about Zorkfest 2024. Chris, I'm probably more excited about Zorkfest than I am going to Vegas with you in June. No, not really.
Well, that is horrible, and I don't even know what to say now.
But Zorkfest is going to be a lot of fun. I wish you were going to be there. Adam Bauer is going to be there. He's tweeting like crazy about us sitting in laps playing slots.
Nice.
It's going to be an adventure. All sorts of I know a lot of our patrons have already signed up and bought tickets. It's going to be a lot of fun. Sunday, as I understand, is going to be primarily the gaming day. We're going to start with coffee dice, and space is going to be limited on that. I don't think space gets made available until July, I think is what Michael said for Coffee Dice. There's going to be a lot of group gambling stuff going on. I might even do a little impromptu slot poll or something like that. Saturday, I think, is going to be the actual most of the programming for Zorkfest, which is very exciting and entertaining and lots of different things for people, whether you're into the travels and miles thing or more of the gaming content. That's all there for you. And then Saturday night is going to be the Podcasters After Dark panel, I think, which was a lot of fun last year when I did it. This year, there's going to be some new podcast hosts there, or influencers, I guess maybe is technically the term. And it's going to be a lot of fun. There will be alcohol involved, I think, at least for me, probably others. So I'm very excited. So if you want to join us, and Chris, you've got the dates in front of you. I haven't got the dates in front of me, but I would love to see you at Zorkfest as well.
Yep, that's November 1st through 3rd, 2024. It's being held at Horseshoe Las Vegas. Early bird discount tickets are still available. That's $100 off the normal registration fee. So get over there and get registered. That's travelzork.com/Zorkfest.
That's travelzork.com/Zorkfest.
Listener questions. Josh, I teased it and you cut me off earlier, but we actually have a voicemail this week from listener James, because I did take the second to go back and actually look. By the way, I found out all the voicemails were going to my spam filter in the email account that it's forwarded to. So all those messages we've missed, I apologize. But James is here this week, so let's hit the play button.
I'm envisioning that we've missed hundreds and hundreds of voicemails.
It's more than you would think.
All right.
I apologize.
Sorry, listeners. I didn't have anything to do with this.
I know. This is all me. Sorry. Go
so
ahead.
This voicemail, I don't think he actually says his name on the voicemail. This is from James, who was the moderator of our Facebook group. And so thanks for the call, James, and thanks for all the work you do on our behalf.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here we go.
Hey, Chris and Josh, just wanted to give a very quick trip report. I see that this is only a 1.5 minute limit, so I better be quick. I was at MGM Springfield. It's a great casino. I really enjoyed it. Go ahead and have your listeners check out the Facebook group. I posted a ton of photos. But the main thing I wanted to talk about was how I got annoyed at a player at the craps table and did the smart thing where I left instead of playing a game with better odds but being annoyed. I said I was going to go to something where it was way bigger house edge, but I knew I would have some fun. So I went over to Let It Ride. And I know how much you all love carnival games. And I looked down at my hand and I had 3 threes
I'm assuming
with a $10
that's good.
bet on each spot, which was great. It was even playing the 3-card bonus, so I knew I was going to win a few $100. And sure enough, the first card that came up was a 3. So that was 4 of a kind. It was the first time I got 4 of a kind at a table game like that for 5 cards. I was also playing a $5 progressive because why not? That paid me $2,200. So overall, it was a $4,000 win.
Wow, that's awesome.
Also had a couple hand pays there. And you can check all that stuff out if you join the Facebook group for Crap Vegas. Anyways,
thanks, James.
Hope to see you all out there sometime. Thanks for all the good work.
Okay, so first of all, Josh, at some point, probably a year ago, I changed it so that the voicemails you could leave were limited to 90 seconds.
I like that.
Because we were getting ones that were so long, we just couldn't use them on the show. I can't take a 3-minute clip on the show. It's just too much. So that's why I got shortened. So sorry about that, James. Didn't mean to cut you off. I just make you work faster. Yes, we do appreciate everything you do on the Facebook group. So thank you for that as well. Josh, I'm glad that he was smart enough to walk away from a bad game, although going to Let It Ride kind of defeats the purpose of
well, it didn't. In this, there's no bad bet if you win, Chris.
That is 100% true.
No bad game if you win either.
James, I don't think I've ever been dealt 3 of a kind on a Let It Ride table. I know that when I used to work for a casino company around my area where I'd go deal parties for them and, all sorts of corporate events and stuff like that, I got stuck on Let It Ride a lot. And that game really sucks at those events, Josh, because you don't have an automatic shuffler. You literally deal it and then have to shuffle it yourself and then pass out the cards and flip them and all that stuff. It's a real pain in the butt. That would be really nice, but here I am. I'm just getting jealous. It's the same thing as when I look on Twitter nowadays, Josh, and every day it feels like I see somebody that's getting a royal flush and they're doing it on a multi-hand machine and they're dealt a royal. And here I am thinking we haven't even come close.
Yeah, I mean, I'm helped in this case by the fact that I don't remember anything about Let It Ride. So while I'm happy that James won $4,000, it's a little it doesn't feel real to me because I don't remember how to play Let It Ride, even though I think I learned it in casino dealer school, learned how to deal Let It Ride.
It's not exactly a hard game to deal, Josh.
Yeah, but no, I'm with you. We do see, whether it's on the Facebook group or people will text me, listeners will text me or DM me big wins that they've had, jackpots and things. It's like, well, I think that's wonderful, and I do encourage you to do that. It does hurt a little bit.
The next time we ever actually have a good win at a craps table, let's message every person we know and be like, screw you guys.
Chris, we already have a show we're going to talk about it on. So
that's true. We do have a outlet for all that frustration. Lucky us.
No, I meant bragging.
Oh, that too. Yeah, that works.
Thanks, James.
Thanks, James. We do appreciate it. We received an anonymous email, Josh, and here's what it says. Love your pod. Curious what you think as I'm getting pretty damn put off by Wynn comps and host. I'm a once or twice a year Vegas player, 3-night trips, always have a $50,000 marker, 100 or 200 on the line, max odds. He's got 3 to 600 on the 6-8, presses 9, 12. You know, he's taking hard ways for black chip action, 12 to 16 hours a trip. Without going any further, Josh, this is a guy that I would consider a very heavy player.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing a lot more than we play.
Big action. Even at Wynn, this is not huge, but pretty good at Wynn.
Yeah, I mean, this is $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 average bet at a bare minimum.
Right.
And he said he usually loses or wins, although I would assume the wins are less often, anywhere between 30 to 60,000 a trip. So this is
it's big.
Quite a large player. He said he's been going to Wynn for 10 years. It seems like they were much friendlier 10 years ago. Now they offer a basic resort room comp or one comp night for a tower suite and then an expensive casino rate for Friday or Saturday. Airport transportation has never been a question at any casino I've stayed at. They always ask for my airline info, even at Wynn in previous days, but now all of a sudden they're telling him to get with the concierge. And he said every time he talks to his host, he gets the vibe like he's just doing me a favor and that I don't actually earn all this stuff. All those things that you would expect from a player his size, he's not getting. He wants to know our thoughts. What's your Wynn comp experience? Ask for a better host. Back to Aria, where I started before. Any other higher-end casinos that he should consider? My first thought, Josh, when I heard this, something's way off.
Yes.
If this is what's happening.
Yeah.
And the only thing I can come up with in my mind is that at some point in their system, he was so overcomped that at this point, they're just desperately trying to claw back a little bit if he's willing to come in. But honestly, when they're doing that for you, I don't think they can say any more than we do not want you here, is effectively what they're saying.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for the email and thanks for going into this level of detail. It kind of boggles my mind. Now, we've talked about hosts before. There are good hosts, there are bad hosts at every property. Yep. We like to think that Wynn has their, a better share of good ones, but who knows? But even in our experience with Wynn, we'll use Wynn as an example because that's your play. The stories that we've heard from other people about their hosts, both good and bad, versus our experience with our host. I mean, the variance is huge. Some people have, get suites on very little play. Some people like you are having trouble getting basic rooms on huge play. So what the answer is, as far as Wynn goes, I would say, see if you can get a different host to see if that makes it, if you want to stay there. But they're not treating you anywhere close, in my opinion, to what you should be getting for that level of play, even at Wynn.
Yeah, I don't understand it at all. You should be getting amazing offers. You should be getting treated very well. And that's obviously not the case. If I was getting treated that way, I wouldn't go, period.
No.
I wouldn't ask for a new host. I would just move on to another property that valued my play. That being said, I would be very inclined, especially if I was in a poor mood that day, to write an email to either the CEO, president, somebody like that, and just explain, look, here's how much I play. Here's how your host has been treating me. I don't expect anything more, but I feel like somebody should know this. I would just want to have a Festivus, Josh. I'd want to air my grievances in this case.
Yeah.
That's what I would really want in this case. I would just move on to another property. And if you're asking about other casinos to try, I mean, of course, Josh and I are going to tell you, Venetian's been treating us very well recently. I think it's nowhere near the level of Wynn, just overall opulence and expectations, but it is a very solid property. You're not going to have a bad experience there. Josh really loves the Aria Sky Suite experience. It comes closer to what Wynn offers from just a pure overall experience there, although it's still not the same. Josh would probably say Fontainebleau. I wouldn't throw that into the mix.
I wouldn't actually. No, I wouldn't.
Okay.
I would say this. I'd say Sky Suites. If you're looking for what you get and you want, because Sky Suites, assuming you have a good host again, of course, but Sky Suites it's a different style of room, but you should be able to get Sky Suites at your level of play pretty easily, I would think. The difference that you get, in my opinion, the rooms are different, and Wynn is more luxurious, I think, and Sky Suites is more contemporary in a way. But the difference is when you get down to the casino floor, the vibe is very different between Wynn and, so it just, if that works for you or not.
I would say, Josh, quite frankly, I think the Venetian floor actually is closer to Wynn's than Aria is.
I agree.
I think it actually does cater to a slightly more sophisticated experience at Venetian. Aria, it can be hit or miss, but Aria is a lot of young people.
Yeah.
It's a little lower level than Venetian in general, even though the table limits, though, don't feel to be significantly different. I don't know what it is. I just feel like Venetian is a slightly classier place to play. And I do like Aria, but it's just a completely different vibe.
The one thing we didn't touch on is Bellagio as an alternative. And my problem there is I don't think they have a level of room, at least that I've seen, that rises to the level of Sky Suites or Wynn.
Yeah, I think that would be my big issue is if you're expecting really quality rooms, I like Bellagio. Their casino floor is probably the closest to Wynn, if that's what's most important to you. But the rooms aren't the same. They don't have that private entrance experience that you get with Sky Suites, that you get with Wynn and the Tower Suites. Yeah, it's not the same experience. And Bellagio, they got to come way back up for me to give them another try because they've kind of fallen.
But to close it out, this is not a good experience at Wynn that you've had for sure. And whether it's your host's fault or who knows what, I wouldn't be staying there with the treatment you've been getting.
I mean, Josh and I get frustrated enough with the treatment that we think we get versus what we deserve.
And we get treated pretty well.
We get treated fine, but we know plenty of people that we interact with that we know well that get treated significantly better being far less gamblers.
Right.
They're not nearly putting the level of play in that we're putting, and they're getting treated better. Is it because of the host? Probably. I mean, that's probably what it is. They have a good rapport with their host, and it works out for them. And we are not the type that are going to beg for everything to come our way. And I know some people are, but that's not us. Right. We're not going to, shoot an email and say, hey, I really need to get this, and I really have to have this room if I'm going to. We don't do that. We're going to ask, and if they say no, then we're either going to accept that fact or we're going to go somewhere else. I prefer to talk with my feet, and I know not everybody's like that.
Yep. But thanks for sharing that. I hope it gets better.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely, because it's a fun place to play, but I wouldn't want to be dealing with that either. So, Josh, I think that's all the time we have for questions this week, so let's keep it moving. Patreon. That's patreon.com/crapvegas. What do we have new over there, Josh?
So, Chris, last week on Patreon, we had something that I know you always make fun of. We talked casino earnings talk.
Josh, before you go too much further, I actually am coming around to casino earnings calls. I actually think there's value there. I'm actually starting to enjoy them more. I think we should even do it more often over there.
We're getting some good feedback. So what this means is I listen to some casino earnings calls quarterly that come out. And if there's anything newsworthy that I think is worth talking about with Chris, I'll take a little of that audio from their earnings calls and we'll talk about it. So it's fun to get a perspective on what some of the Vegas properties, the casino properties are thinking, what they think is important. Maybe we unearth a nugget or two. So we had some casino earnings talk. We also talked about a little special promotion, which I think Chris is going to mention a little bit later in the episode. And we had a little celebration for our 2-year anniversary of the podcast.
Oh, that's right. I completely forgot about that. We did hit the 2-year mark middle of last week, if I remember correctly, Josh. So Congratulations to us. I don't know what that gets us, but a little bit of happiness. And for those that are asking about the casino earnings calls, I will say it's not like earnings per share stuff. We're not doing EPS, value propositions.
No financial talk.
This is Josh really digging through for things that just sound really interesting that a CEO may mention as something coming up in Vegas that we didn't really know about. And we can just dive into that a little bit further. It's actually really interesting from that perspective.
Yeah, not financial at all.
No, not at all. We're not talking about revenue numbers or anything. But anyways, Josh, this week, new patrons to thank. That's Brock B., Sal A., and he's on an annual subscription, so thank you, Sal.
Thanks, Sal.
Eric G, Kenneth T, Amber C, and Jonathan B. And Jonathan was the one from earlier this episode,
good job,
Josh.
John. Thank you.
He did follow through. It was not a lie. Thank you, Jonathan. We do appreciate that. And as Josh mentioned, special announcement. As a special thank you to all of our patrons, we're going to be giving away Delta Gold Medallion status, which for some people I know is a really cool thing. For some people do not care at all. But we're going to give that to one lucky patron on June 1st. All you have to do is be an active patron on May 31st, and you're going to be eligible. All patrons get one entry for free. Our KCS level patrons get 3 free entries. We'll pick somebody June 1st. If for some reason that person doesn't want it, already has it, we'll pick another person in the line. But all you got to do is sign up. You don't need to go through, fill out a form or anything like that. Just get registered, get signed up today, and win some Delta Gold Medallion status for the rest of the year.
We would love that. One thing, Chris, I did want to mention, because it's been a while since we've mentioned it, people do reach out and say, what do we get on Patreon? So just real quickly, we have 2 levels for our patrons. There's a $7 a month level and a $20 a month level. That's the KCS level that Chris is talking about. Mm-hmm. All our patrons, whichever of those 2 levels you pick, get an extra Crap Vegas episode weekly and alternating with this show. So we do this show every 2 weeks. We do Patreon every 2 weeks and alternating. So you get an episode of Crap Vegas every week. And then for our KCS level patrons, the biggest benefit, assuming you consider it a biggest benefit, is you get to see an unedited video feed of this here recording of all of our main shows. We release the unedited video. It's usually like 5 hours long because we have so much to cut out. It's not really that bad.
That might be overstating it a little bit.
But I think our KCS patrons have really grown to like that a lot. It's fun. Some of our patrons really enjoy listening and kind of comparing the unedited version, which is versus the beautiful product that I create at the end that you all hear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you also get an ad-free version of the show if that's something that's important to you. If you're a KCS level, you're going to get, everybody gets Christmas gifts from me at the end of the year when I'm feeling generous. KCS get an extra 1 or 2. They get extra entries and drawings like we're having right now. I will say that I think pretty much anybody that's been one of our patrons, either continually or even just for a month or 2, will be the first to tell you we like to give back. We do contests and drawings and gifts.
Sometimes we don't finish the contests.
But we're working on it.
Yeah,
we will get to it eventually. But no, we try to give back as much as we possibly can just to make people feel like they're welcome and appreciated. So, thank you for being a part of it. Everybody, we do appreciate it.
Thank you guys very much.
Okay. Upcoming trips, Josh. We're going at the end of June. I know you have the dates because I never have them. But Josh has officially locked in that we are going to stay at Venetian the first 2 nights, the Friday, Saturday, and we're moving over to Aria Sky Suites for Sunday and Monday night.
Yep, this is June 28th through 30th at Venetian, and then for 30th, I guess, through 2nd at Sky Suites over at Aria. So if you want to join us for some coffee dice, that's where we'll be.
Yeah, and we're even going to see an exciting show this time. Where are we going, Josh?
We're going to go see Lady Gaga, which is going to be a lot of fun.
I think so, too. I'm really looking forward to that. We've heard nothing but good feedback regarding her jazz show, piano show that she does. Friendly reminder to subscribe and leave a review on your favorite podcasting app and to visit our merch store. That's crapvegas.com/shop. Okay, Josh, we made it this far. Nobody's talked about the wheel yet. Is it gone forever?
No,
it's not gone forever.
Should we give it a spin?
Okay, fine. Give it a spin.
Here we go.
It's time to spin the Crap Vegas Big Wheel. Are you ready? Josh, spin the wheel.
Okay, Chris, I like to start these things with if there's anything exciting happening in Vegas this week. There's really not much other than it's that whole fashion thing coming up in Vegas where there's their couture convention. And this is, I'm talking about the end of May, if you're not listening in real time. There's that couture convention and antique jewelry show at Wynn. There's something called JCK at Venetian. And there's a JOGS, Gem, Mineral, and Jewelry show at the Las Vegas Convention Center. So I think that last week of May is all jewelry related.
I can't think of a time to be out in Vegas less than then, because I definitely would not fit in at all. I do not pay attention to what I wear. I don't have fancy jewelry. I can't do any of those things.
We've been at Wynn and I've seen people with couture stuff and all the fancy dress people, and it makes me not want to stay at Wynn more.
Yeah, no, I can avoid that weekend without an issue.
That's all I got for that one. I'm going to spin the wheel again.
Okay, what we got this time?
It's a short wheel.
Very small.
So, Chris, this is kind of a trivia question for you. Which company has the most hotel rooms in Las Vegas?
Good question. Are we talking overall, counting all the properties they own?
Yeah. In Vegas, though.
Caesars?
No, it's MGM by quite a few. Yeah. MGM has 37,000 hotel rooms in Vegas. Caesars has, and I couldn't get an official number, so I kind of tried to do a count, about 22,000. So it's about a 10, 15,000 room difference.
And here I was thinking like, okay, Circus used to be part of MGM. Mirage used to be part of MGM. They've lost those properties.
Right.
They've fallen behind Caesars, but clearly, well, Caesars lost Rio though. So, I mean, yeah, I guess that makes sense. Well, I mean, it depends on how you look at it, but
yeah, I just thought that was interesting. Biggest one you might probably already guess is MGM Grand with 5,000 rooms.
Yeah, a shit ton of rooms.
If you put Venetian and Palazzo together, that's 7,000, but doesn't count as one property. That's two.
What else you got?
Let's spin the wheel. Okay, Chris. So I found myself on Vegas Reddit, and I found this with the headline or topic sentence or whatever they're called on Reddit. I just got taken out of Treasure Island on a gurney.
On a gurney?
Yeah. So if you happen to see someone getting taken out of Treasure Island in an ambulance, it was me, LOL. My whole body got tingly, mouth pursed up, couldn't speak, my legs were stiff, couldn't walk, and my fingers locked up in a crazy position. Well, I'm good now, sitting at the hospital, about to Uber back to the casino and make the weird and awkward walk back to my hotel room after everyone just saw me almost die. Ha ha ha.
That happens all the time, right? Yeah, that's so normal. I'm not a medical doctor and I don't pretend to be one, but I don't know how that happens. I'm going to assume maybe he was high or intoxicated or something just put him out of his mind. Yeah. And if that did happen to you, would you immediately run to Reddit and share it with everybody? Like,
I thought you were going to say, would you immediately run back to the casino?
No, I'd probably switch over to a different casino at that point.
That was just so random that I had to share that.
That's a good one. Anything else on the wheel today?
Yes, let me spin the wheel. All right, so we talked about on the Patreon show, one thing I didn't mention is just when we recorded Patreon, the last CVP show was the date that the Mirage closing announcement came out.
It was.
And the Mirage is going to close on July 17th, 2024. And Chris, in looking around, I found a little snippet of an article that came out in 1989 talking about the Mirage. And I'm just going to read just two quick paragraphs. Skeptics snickered when Stephen Wynn announced plans in 1986 to build a $670 million hotel casino in Las Vegas. Not only would it be the priciest resort on the Strip and require a cash flow of more than $1 million a day just to break even, but he also had the nerve to plan a gambling joint where you wouldn't even see any slot machines when you walk through the front door. Instead, you'd be greeted by bronzy statuary, a tropical rainforest, and a couple of waterfalls, not to mention white tigers and a saltwater aquarium off to the side. Wynn had the last laugh, though, when Mirage opened in 1989. There had been a terrible sameness to the properties in Las Vegas. The public couldn't differentiate between the sands, the dunes, the Aladdin, the Sahara. I wanted to take it to a different level, the chairman of Mirage Resorts, Inc. said. We presented this place as an alternative for people who don't consider themselves casino people. I always knew others would follow, as they have.
I mean, I don't think anybody can ever question that Steve Wynn was a visionary, and everything that he did and every property that he touched, he just brought something special to it. No comment on him as a person,
right,
or even as a leader of an organization. But when we're just talking about coming up with property ideas and making luxurious resorts, I don't think there's anybody better.
I just thought with the Mirage closing, I mean, I've never stayed at the Mirage. I know you have. I've been there. I saw Siegfried and Roy there. I'm sure I saw other shows there. I remember going to Carnegie Deli, and I remember the Rainforest.
Yeah.
And I remember going into Mirage the first time and being kind of overwhelmed by how different this was than other properties I had been to.
Yeah, I've talked about before. There's Vegas Vacation's always an iconic movie in my mind. And when I think Vegas Vacation, I think Mirage. And it's just such iconic scenes as you're watching throughout that movie. It's just an awesome place. I always like Mirage. I probably won't go back at any point in the future because standalone properties usually don't do it for me. That's not usually what I like too terribly much. So my Mirage days / hard rock, whatever you want to call it, may be over. But yeah, I do hate to see it having to close for 3 years. That's pretty crazy.
It is. All right, going to give the reel one more spin.
Okay.
So, Chris, we missed EDC.
Oh, no.
I know. I'm very upset about it.
I thought I had it on my calendar. I guess I completely forgot. I mean, it has so much music that I know you love.
Totally. I mean, we talked about that. We don't need to go into it now, but I need to hear some, and I missed being there. But I did want to help out someone who had a need from EDC. So I'm kind of passing the word along. He said, if this sounds familiar, you might be the girl I'm looking for that I met at EDC night 3 at the Bass Pod stage while Aliens was playing. You had blue in your hair, gold shorts, and a brown tail. You were with 2 other people, your friend who had red hair, and her boyfriend had a squid hat on from Bass Pod. We went to the bathroom by Circuit Grounds where we were going to watch Exogen. I left to get my friend and come back to you, but never found you. I'm sorry, I can't remember your name or where you're from, but we agreed we would live forever, and you believe in reincarnation.
So this is the new section of the podcast, CV Misconnections?
Yes, exactly.
I didn't know that's what we were doing. If anybody else has a misconnection in Vegas that you need help with, podcast@crapvegas.com, shoot us an email. We'll make sure to read it at the end of the next show as well, because that's very important to us that we help bring people together. Yeah, that person, again, if this person was that close to you, might want to get their name or number. I'm sure there was some heavy drug use involved. I mean, I feel very sorry for the guy.
Crap Vegas involved.
Quite frankly, if she didn't give you her number, though, she probably didn't want you to have it, my friend. So let's just keep moving on there.
All right, that's what I got, Chris.
Anything else before we go today, Josh?
No, we should probably go.
Okay, we probably should. Thank you all for listening this week. We really do appreciate it. Get signed up for Patreon so you can win that Delta Gold Medallion status. And we'll see you over there next week for a new episode.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Vegas, here we come.
Thanks for listening to the Crap Vegas podcast.
Have you ever been to Vegas?
Check out all our recent news and our Vegas trip calendar by visiting crapvegas.com.
See you in Vegas.
No, I say travelzork.com/ZorkFest.
You already talked enough. I didn't know you wanted to keep talking. Here, ready? So get over there and get registered. That's travelzork.com/ZorkFest.
That's travelzork.com/ZorkFest. See, it's easy for me because I just have to repeat what you say.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like the trained parrot.
What? Travelzork? Oh. Or you can reach us on Twitter or Threads. He's at Vegas Duffy. I'm at Small Whale 13, or the show page is.
Now it doesn't work because you said Threads.
This episode is never going to be done. Are we all done? Can we just cut it now?
Spin the wheel.
Yeah, spin the wheel, Josh. I'm done with this one.
Computer, how many entries are there for Darmok?
47.